No, I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but I'm obsessed with Elizabeth Holmes. I have a whole playlist of bits and pieces. And I've begun to pay more attention to how her voice varies. Everyone talks about the baritone, and it's very low. It's not attractive, whatever she's doing there. This is one example, but then I'm going to play another one right after that where it's much, much, much higher.
Well, I think, when I first started raising money, the question that was often asked when I walked in the room was, what's your exit strategy? And, I'm sitting there kind of thinking about my entry strategy. And so I really tried to find people.
Note the crossed legs.
Who had built
patent leather
great
shoes.
companies for the long term and really understood what that meant. And in our tradition, Silicon Valley, the whole venture capital business was started by people who were in it to invest in people.
Okay, now we're going to try something else. Try to hold that in your brain. Now listen to this. This is the same woman. Oh, hell, where did the picture go? It's the same woman. And listen to the tone of her voice.
And our team in Arizona called us and said, what do we do? And because the man didn't have fingers. And it turned out he had a nub on his elbow, and we talked to our lab team, and they said, okay, you can do the draw. And so they did this, what would have been a finger stick on this little nub on his arm, and he broke into tears because up until that point, the way that they had to draw blood is through a needle in his neck. And
I'm going to try something else now. I don't know if this will work. I think you can hear the difference. Sorry, I'm shaky.
We're in it to invest in people who had great ideas and wanted to build great companies for the long term. And
I'm going to turn that up even more.
We turned down the first monies.
Sorry, this is flying around. It's the voice you care about.
I turned down because I didn't think that they would invest in us for the reasons that I wanted them to. And we were very lucky to end up finding a group of people who had personally been involved in building great companies for the long term.
So let's try, come on. Let's try one more time. That's out the window.
What do you imagine Theranos to be like in 20 years? How's it going?
On his elbow, and we talked to our lab team, and they said, okay, you can do the draw. And so they did this, what would have been a finger stick on this little nub on his arm, and he broke into tears because up until that point, the way that they had to draw blood is through a needle in his neck. And it's so painful and so dehumanizing that
she's lowering it.
It's an incredibly emotional process.
Listen to it drop.
So what is interesting
Down
about
it goes.
The way that technology can be applied is we certainly didn't design this with that use case in mind, but
she's lowering it.
It becomes possible when you
flash bulbs going off, I assume.
Make more accessible the process, and that's something that
now by now it's
really
almost back to where it usually is.
Every person, right?
Yeah. I'll just play one more of the high-voiced one. Come on. No, this one.
Yeah.
What do you imagine Theranos to be?
Humanizing that it's an incredibly emotional process. So what is interesting about the way that technology can be applied is we certainly didn't design this with that use case in mind, but it...
I'm sorry, I should have played the other one. It's just hard flipping back and forth. I don't have the means. I don't have the means to do it, but I'm doing it anyway. If you get the sound.
And got them involved in this. And likewise, in the board that we have the privilege of having is a group of people who really understand what it means to make a difference
I
in the
think you
world
can hear what I'm
and
getting at here.
want to do good. Fundamentally,
Um,
that's why they're involved in this, because they see it
Hey, come on,
as
come on,
something
come on,
that
stop it. It's not just that her voice is low, and everyone's making jokes about that now and doing parodies and that. It's that it fluctuates so much. That was the first really dramatic example I've seen of it fluctuating. And honest to God, if I knew a person like that, I'd be pretty suspicious. If they're putting on a voice, aren't they putting on all the rest of the deal? Well, obviously, with all that talk of idealism and people with a needle in their neck and all that tears, there's always a lot of play on emotions, but she seems to have no emotions. Some of what she says is very robotic. It's scary. That thing about, oh, it's a gift from God. I don't know if I can find that one. Oh, God. It would take me forever. I should narrate while I'm trying to do this. She did make a statement about Theranos being a gift from God. Well, I don't know about that. We're going to see what we can find here. It particularly chilled me. And the volume was kind of low, too. It's going to be way, way up. Because I want people to hear this.
Give people the tools to change their life. It's an incredible blessing. It's a privilege. Every single day, I'm just so grateful for the way in which this is unfolding. It's a gift from God.
Now,
Incredible blessing. It's a privilege. Every single day, I'm just so grateful for the way in which this is unfolding. It's a gift from God.
I want to just play that one more time. I know that's...
An incredible blessing. It's a privilege. Their life. It's an incredible blessing. It's a privilege.
No, I'm just going to play that one more time. Because I like how she... Yeah, how she says
Their
that.
life. It's an incredible blessing. It's a privilege. Every single day, I'm just so grateful for the way in which this is unfolding. It's a gift from God.
Well, if that sounds like she's reading off a card, that must be true. She's a very strange woman. Her delivery is robotic. But it worked. This is what everybody's scratching their head about, and people must be embarrassed. The fact that it worked so well. There's my cat. That it worked too well. People lost millions, they lost billions. Because of that. Because of that dull sounding, I don't know, there was no sincerity there at all. It was weird. And everyone seeing her now is just weird. But then, no. Will we learn from this? I don't think so. The human race has been falling for this shit for generations and centuries. They get taken in because they want to be taken in. There's one born every minute. People want to be taken for a ride. They don't want to admit it. But they do. The fallout for her is not going to be as great as the fallout for those that she annihilated. She seems pretty happy right now. I've done some videos on that lately. She's happy. Finally. A real smile. I don't know what her voice sounds like. Probably more like the high version, which just normally sounded to me like a normal alto female voice. She's not likely to have a really, really high voice. It would be an alto, and you know what that means, sort of a medium. And that's what that sounded like. And then at the end, you could sense that she was pushing it down in that laborious way, which must have been very hard to do. Poor thing. I'm really sorry for her.